Before we begin, I want you to imagine standing inside a place that hasn't been touched in thousands of years. No footsteps, no voices, just sealed air and silence older than memory. Now imagine opening a door that was never meant to be opened, not because it hides treasure, but because it hides something sacred, something that was never meant to be disturbed. In the early 1950s, a team of archaeologists made a discovery deep beneath the sands of Egypt, a hidden chamber inside a forgotten pharaoh's tomb. What they found inside was not meant for the living. This is the Scarab Gate. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, a sea of gold and silence beneath a pale, unforgiving sky. The excavation site sat low against the horizon, wooden scaffolding, canvas tents, and a slow, constant rhythm of tools biting into ancient earth. Dr. Maxwell Hale stood at the edge of the main trench, wiping sweat from his brow with a handkerchief already stained with dust. "Careful with that wall," he called down. "That's older than anything we've uncovered so far." Below him, workers chipped cautiously at a layer of stone that had remained untouched for millennia. The air felt heavy, not from heat, from something else, like the ground itself didn't want to give up what it was hiding. It was Ahmed who found it, a thin seam in the rock, barely visible unless the light struck it just right. "Doctor," he called, voice low, "you should see this." Maxwell climbed down carefully, boots crunching against dry stone. Ahmed stepped aside, revealing the edge of something smooth. Too smooth to be natural. Maxwell knelt, brushing sand away with slow, deliberate movements. Hieroglyphs, perfectly preserved, sealed. "Dear God," Maxwell whispered. The symbols were dense, complex, not ceremonial, protective. Warnings layered over warnings. And in the center, a symbol repeated again and again. A scarab. They worked for hours, carefully clearing the stone, revealing a doorway, unlike anything they'd seen before. No cracks, no damage, perfectly sealed. "Why hasn't this been looted?" one of the men asked. Maxwell didn't answer, because he already knew. No one had gotten in. The sun dipped lower as they prepared to open it. Maxwell hesitated just for a moment. Something about the air had changed. It felt expectant. "Open it," he said. The tools struck the seal. Once, twice, then a crack. A sound like something exhaling after thousands of years. The stone shifted, and a thin line of darkness appeared. The smell came first. Dry, ancient, not rot, something older, like time itself had been trapped inside. The door opened slowly, and darkness spilled out. Not empty darkness, something deeper, something that felt like it had weight. They entered with lanterns. A light pushed against the dark, revealing walls covered in carvings, scenes of judgment, bodies weighed against feathers, figures kneeling before towering gods, and everywhere, scarabs, hundreds of them, carved, painted, etched into every surface, watching. It started small. One of the workers, Daniel, stopped walking. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Maxwell turned. "Hear what?" Daniel's eyes were fixed on the wall. "They're moving." Everyone went still, because for just a moment, the carvings seemed to shift. The scarabs, crawling. They spread quickly. One man screamed, swatting at his arms. "They're on me! Get them off!" But there was nothing there. Another dropped his lantern, backing away in terror. "There's something in the corner. Something." Maxwell grabbed him. "There's nothing there." But even as he said it, he wasn't sure. The shadows moved differently now. Too slow. Too deliberate. And within them, shapes began to form. Tall figures, animal-headed, watching from the edges of the light. Anubis, Thoth, things that should not have been there, standing just beyond sight. "Out," Maxwell said. "Everyone out now." But it was too late, because at the far end of the chamber, another door had opened. No one had touched it, and beyond it, a room filled with gold. At the center, on a raised pedestal, sat the object, a golden scarab, perfect. Its surface gleamed unnaturally in the lantern light, not reflecting, but absorbing it. Maxwell stepped forward. "Don't," Ahmed said sharply. But Maxwell couldn't stop.
Something was pulling him. Not physically. Something deeper. His fingers brushed the surface. Cold. Not like metal. Like stone that had never seen the sun.
And then it moved. The legs shifted. The body twitched. And the world collapsed. The chamber disappeared. The desert vanished. Everything gone. Maxwell felt himself falling. Not through space. Through something else. Something vast. Endless. And then he landed. The sky above him was black, but not empty. Filled with stars that didn't belong. The ground beneath him stretched endlessly. A desert, but not like Earth's. This sand shimmered. Moved. Like it was alive. In the distance, structures rose. Impossible. Massive temples that bent at angles that hurt to look at. And walking between them, figures. Not human. Not alive. Not dead. Maxwell stood slowly, his breath shaking. "This isn't real," he whispered. But something turned. Far away. One of the figures. Its head tilted. And even from that distance, Maxwell felt it. It saw him. And in that moment, everything changed. Because this place was not for the living. The sand beneath Maxwell's boots shifted as he stood. Not from wind, from movement. As if something beneath the surface was slowly turning, aware of him. The sky above pulsed faintly. Constellations rearranging in unnatural patterns, forming shapes that almost resembled symbols, hieroglyphs written in stars. Maxwell swallowed hard. This isn't possible. But the air itself felt wrong. Too still. Too heavy. Like he was breathing something that wasn't meant for lungs. In the distance, the figures continued to move. Slowly. Deliberately. And now, more of them were turning. One of the figures began to approach. At first, it seemed to glide. Then Maxwell realized it wasn't walking. It was simply closer. Each time he blinked, the distance shortened. The shape resolved into something familiar. A tall, imposing form. A man's body. The head of a jackal. Its eyes glowed faintly gold. Unblinking. Anubis. Maxwell staggered back. No, this isn't real. The god tilted its head and began to follow. Maxwell turned and ran. The sand dragged at his feet, each step heavier than the last, like the ground itself resisted his escape. Behind him, no sound of footsteps. But he knew it was still coming. Not rushing, not chasing, simply ensuring he could not leave. The desert gave way suddenly. Tall, endless reeds stretched in every direction, swaying gently despite the absence of wind. The air here felt thicker, alive. Whispers moved through the reeds. Voices layered over one another. Soft, mournful, endless. Maxwell pushed through them, heart hammering. Faces appeared between the stalks. Faint, transparent, watching him pass. Dead men, dead women. Their expressions were not angry, not afraid, just empty. The whispers stopped. Abruptly, Maxwell froze, because something else had entered the field. A shape far larger than the others. Massive. Its silhouette towered above the reeds. A long neck, a curved beak, eyes like burning suns. Thoth, the god of knowledge, the god who records. Its gaze locked onto Maxwell. And in that moment, Maxwell felt something tear open inside his mind. He saw everything, every memory, every lie, every regret, Every moment of his life unfolded at once, layered and overlapping. Impossible to separate. The dig site, the chamber, the scarab, the warnings he ignored, the voice of Ahmed telling him to stop. Maxwell screamed, dropping to his knees, but the vision didn't end, because this wasn't punishment. This was recording. The sky darkened further. The stars above shifted violently now, spiraling inward. And from the distance, more figures began to move. Not just gods, creatures, things pulled from myth and nightmare alike. Serpents the size of buildings, beasts with too many limbs, forms that defied shape entirely. They were all coming, not in chaos, in purpose. Maxwell looked down at his hands. The golden scarab was still there, embedded now, half sunk into his skin. Its legs twitched slowly, gripping him, and with every movement, the creatures drew closer. "They're tracking me," he whispered. The realization hit like a blow. The scarab wasn't a key. It was a beacon. The ground shifted again. And suddenly, Maxwell stood before it. A massive temple carved from black stone, its surface etched with endless carvings of judgment and death. The doors opened on their own. Inside, darkness, waiting. The chamber beyond was vast. At its center stood a scale, and beside it, a creature that should not exist. Part crocodile, part lion, part something else entirely. And the devourer, its eyes fixed on Maxwell. Hungry. A voice filled the chamber. Not spoken. Understood. "You are not dead." Maxwell's breath hitched. No, please. You do not belong." The scale tilted. Empty. Waiting. The scarab burned. White-hot pain surged through Maxwell's body. He collapsed, screaming as the creature tore itself free from his flesh. It skittered across the floor and vanished into the darkness. The gods did not move. They did not attack. They simply watched. Because they didn't need to. Maxwell wasn't meant to stay. The world shattered again. Sand, sky, darkness, all collapsing inward. And then, light. Maxwell hit the stone floor hard. Air rushed into his lungs in a violent gasp. Chamber, the dig site. It was all there, unchanged. Except the others? They were gone. Every single one of them. Maxwell staggered to his feet. The golden scarab sat once again on its pedestal. Still, silent. But something had changed. The carvings on the walls. New figures had appeared. Faint. Fresh. A man running. Chased by gods. Maxwell stared at it, trembling. Because he recognized the face. His own. And behind him, the figures were still coming. There are places in this world that do not belong to us. Places older than history, older than memory. Places that were never meant to be entered by the living. Because the afterlife is not a destination, it is a boundary. And once you cross it, even if you come back, something knows, something remembers. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because there are more stories like this. Buried, waiting. And some of them are better left undisturbed. Sleep well, and don't take what isn't yours.